Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nickel Matano, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 154 of Something Else. Feast your hair holes on our bonus show as we're taking a look at WrestleKingdom 19 from January 4th, 2025, and Wrestle Dynasty from January 5th, 2025, both of which from the Tokyo Dome in, wait for it, Tokyo, Japan. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Chris Charlton to my Walker Stewart. It's Trae. Trae, what the fuck is your problem with Kenny Omega?
What are you talking about? Oh,
I figured
wait,
you're Chris
I'm
Charlton.
Chris Charlton.
Yes.
Oh my God. So
Did Kenny Omega offer to take Chris Charlton with him to AEW and then back out on the deal or something? Motherfucker, like, I've never heard Chris Charlton so mad about anything.
it's funny because I didn't really register it because it was, I don't know, it was 2 a.m. and I was kind of stoned. Like I knew what he was saying, but
Yeah.
it's just like I watch every New Japan show, so I'm just used to how passionate Chris Charlton gets in these big moments. And then it comes today that's like all anybody's talking about, and I'm like, really? I don't know. I thought it made the match better. Like,
It just seemed, I don't say bad, it just felt out of character. Like, I'd never heard Chris Charlton really go off on anybody, like, at least for shoot reasons. Like, okay, work reasons, House of Torture sucks, so I'm going to go off on House of Torture. But it's like, this was, hey, this asshole turned his back on the company and yada, 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 yada. And I guess he didn't have great things to say about Shibata either, but Shibata, that was more understandable than anything else. Omega just felt weird because he didn't go off on the Young Bucks.
okay, well, number one, I think it was very in character because Chris Charlton's like defining trait is his passion for New Japan. So from that angle, I certainly get it. And it's Kenny because number one, Kenny was like the way bigger star and one of the pillars that New Japan was building around. But really, he's just talking about because the thing that makes Chris Charlton so great at this job is his ability to break down what the stakes of the big match are, what the big match means to every wrestler, what the win means and what the loss means. So he's looking at it from the perspective of Gabe Kidd, seeing it as him defending New Japan against this guy who abandoned them. So he's looking at it from that perspective, and then he's just getting more and more excited because this match is so incredible, and it just kind of gets him. It kind of gets away from him, and like I didn't really think it was a big deal.
It,
I
I,
think
I, mind you, I wasn't up at 3 in the morning when it was happening. We'll get to that. But like, I was watching it this evening. I'm like, wow, this came out of nowhere. This fire. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, but I guess if you're saying it was all over Twitter and whatnot, but oh well. All right, so we got a lot of wrestling to talk about. Typically, it takes us an hour to watch each or to talk about each hour of wrestling we talk about. So this show may go 11 hours. It
it's
probably
gonna be
won't.
rough.
Yes. So let's jump in. Wrestle Kingdom 19, January 4th, 2025. Um, by the end of Wrestle Dynasty, because I had to watch it in or actually watching 4 parts. I was skipping entrances and post-match stuff. So I don't know if they ever announced the attendance for Wrestle Dynasty, but towards the end of Wrestle Kingdom, Chris Charlton noted there was 24,107 at the Tokyo Dome for January 4. And as mentioned, it's Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton. It opens with our annual New Japan Rambo. And just going down the list here, number 1, Great-O-Khan. Number 2, Josh Barnett,
Josh
which
Barnett returning to New Japan 22 years to the day after he had his first pro wrestling match in the main event for the IWGP Heavyweight title.
now that I'm watching, like, you talked about you want him and Bolton Oleg, and I think if somebody else mentioned it too, him and Bolton Oleg be a trainer, trainee, mentor, mentee. I like him and Gabe Kidd to have that kind of relationship because I think that could be really interesting. By the way, Great-O-Khan was challenging Randy Orton and Tetsuya Naito for the slowest walk to the ring, as it took him approximately 7 hours to walk from the ramp to the ring. And by the way, I could be wrong. Maybe they did this last year, the year before, but they did the entrances for the Rambo down the regular ramp and not off the side out the baseball dugout, like they seem to always do for the pre-show matches.
They've been
Uh,
doing the for the past few years.
okay, I just guess I just didn't notice last year. Number 3, by the way, a fun grappling battle ensued, as you can imagine, between O'Khan and Barnett. Number 3 was Bolton Oleg. Number 4 was Hiroki Goto, and this is where I note apparently chaos is still a thing. Uh,
Yes.
no, number
Okay.
5. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't need to keep going off on every topic, or then the show will last forever. But chaos at this point, I think, it's Goto, Yoshihashi, and Ishii, Yo, and Rocky Romero, and Yano,
That's
and
still
then
more than I was
and that is
expecting.
several people. But then it's been for like the last 5 years, since like 2019 or so, that Chaos and Hantai just like team together, so they're pretty much interchangeable. Yeah, I don't know why Chaos exists, but it does.
Number 5 is Yuji Nagata, which I was not expecting.
Oh,
And
they had to
th
have Nagata in because Barnett was there, and that's who Barnett made his debut against.
yeah, I picked that one up here because Walker Stewart, who apparently is not even 22 years old, because he talked about how he wasn't even alive during that match at 22 years ago at the Tokyo Dome. I wrote,
He is
God damn it.
22.
Okay, well, he thinks he wasn't alive when that match happened. So, um, but at this point, Bolton Oleg and Josh Burnett goes over the top rope together. Number 6 is Makabe. Number 7 is Kenta, and Kenta power walked to the ring. Nagata pulled out the "You Don't Hit Yuji Nagata" face that I just love, but Kenta then just booted him right off the apron, right in his face. Number 8 is Yoshihashi. I wrote, for the sake of my sanity, these wrestlers whose name in all caps better be eliminated promptly. And so that pretty much happened because number 9 was Yujiro. They got rid of Yoshihashi. And then number 10 was Yano, who got rid of Kenta and Yujiro. Uh, Number 11 is Tenzan. Number 12 was Kojima. I noted to you, how the hell do they always have back-to-back numbers in these Rambos? And as you noted, there never is like, they never really say there's a drawing, just people are assigned numbers. So it's
Right.
less, it's less WWE. Um,
Somebody somebody on the IWGP committee makes that decision.
but I like how they always make that decision that those two go back to back, like
Yeah.
literally. Number 3 is Tomoaki Hanma, and I wrote, this Rambo was made for lapsed New Japan fans like me, who got into New Japan between 2013 and 2016. Makabe and Goto tried to pin Okan repeatedly to no avail. Number 14, because we can't have nice things, is Sanada, and Sanada tried to eliminate Makabe, didn't work. Kojima was out at this point. Number 15 was Taichi without Miho Abe, and it turns out, according to you, they broke up. Hashtag sad face. Number 16 is Tomohiro Ishii. And this is where we reach the part of the Rambo that I hate every year because I don't know. This seems to be like it ever since the pandemic thing. I don't remember it beforehand as much, but ever since the pandemic, it feels like every Rambo, it breaks down at one point where there's constantly people fighting in and outside of the ring. So it becomes hard to keep track unless you're a copious note taker. And even then, like me, you're not entirely sure. Um, Number 17 is Alex Zane, whose nickname is the Sauce. And I asked, where is Tracy Williams when you need him? Because he was Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. Um, Taichi was disqualified somehow. Sonata, for some reason, jumped over the top rope and stood on the apron. And then he got booted off to get eliminated because he's a moron. And actually, when he came in, because I was trying to figure out, because the winner's getting a world title match. So when Sonata came out, I'm like, okay, it's going to be Sonata. Because Evil's got his match later. So if Evil had been in it, I figured it would have been Ian, but it wasn't. So I'm like, okay, Sonata's a former champion. They'll get through a month with Sonata getting a title shot. But nope, he's out. Um, and Yano was tossed by Zayn. Ishii and Zayn were eliminated by O'Corn, leaving Great O'Corn versus Goto. And then in what, okay, again, you watch, every show, so maybe you weren't surprised by this, but especially when it came to these two, I was shocked Goto won.
I figured that it would be Okan, but then look, I'm never going to complain about my guy Hiroki Goto getting a title shot, and I know it just means I'm going to get my heart broken again, but do it to
Yeah.
me. I'm ready.
But do we know when you're going to get your heart broken yet? Is it going to be February?
They have not announced it yet, but I would assume that that might be a match for the New Beginning in Osaka in February.
All right, so that was the pre-show match. The show opens with the first ever ladder match in Tokyo Dome history, which makes sense because New Japan's only done like three of them, and also was crazy to think about because ladder matches have been such a staple of, pro wrestling for the past 30 years. But for the junior tag team titles, Kushida and Kevin Knight defending against Clark Connors and Drilla Mahoney, who, by the way, came out with some sexy women. TJP and Francisco Akira, and Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita in what was titled a Tokyo Terror ladder match. Walker Stewart said this was one fall with a 60-minute time limit. And I wrote, and I said this on Twitter, not sure which would be crazier, a 2 out of 3 fall ladder match or a time limit draw. Uh, and by the way,
I
Walker
can
Walker Stewart liked that tweet.
I can at least understand a time limit draw. What would a 2 out of 3 fall ladder match look like?
That you'd have to climb up, get it, put this belt back up, and then climb up and get it a second time.
So the first and the third fall are traditional ladder matches, and the second fall is King of the Mountain
No,
rules.
no. The referee would put it back up.
No, mine is better.
There you go. Okay. All right. And in this case where it's, four teams, it's the first to do it twice, so you could have 5 falls. Um, so I wrote someone, and I think it was Kushida, had his face removed with a chair shot. Not the last time we're going to be seeing hard chair shots to the head. And then because we had chairs, we already had ladders, it was time for this to just become a TLC match, thanks to those wonderfully skinny New Japan tables that came out. Um, Kevin Knight took a face full of chair from Connors. I wrote, "Are we trying to give everyone concussions in the opener here?" Drilla tried to give Kushida a running sit-out powerbomb through a table, but they kind of missed.
Okay,
Uh, Go ahead.
so the thing is that they always put over that Drilla Maloney has like the greatest, most devastating finishing move in wrestling, the Drilla Killer. And he was trying to give it to Kushida through the table, and the table didn't break, and that must have sucked.
I thought they were trying to do a sit-up powerbomb and kind of missed.
No, they were trying to do the Drilla Killer through the table, and the table didn't break.
So his last name is Maloney.
Yes.
I wrote Mahoney like he's Balls' brother. Um,
No.
all right. Um, so it's okay because Akira then put Drilla through a different table with a springboard. I'm sorry, with a senton off TJP's shoulders. Knight set up a ladder bridge that Clark was across, and Eagles did a springboard 450 onto that. TJP did his best Shelton Benjamin impersonation by doing a springboard to get onto the ladder, but then he went pure Japanese wrestlers. He spewed red mist in Eagle's face and putting him through the ladder bridge with a Scorpion Death Drop. Knight came off the top of a ladder with a crossbody to Drilla. They put the ladder on top of Drilla, trapping him underneath the ladder rung, which I guess he was stuck there, but he was also pretty skinny, and I'm pretty sure he could have scooted out if he tried. Um,
Is it? Is that what it looked like? A shoestring got tied up in the ladder?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess, I mean, obviously he was there for a reason, and I was kind of expecting the spot when they did it. But I wasn't expecting Kevin Knight to nearly be murdered to death, because he pushes over the ladder with Knight near the top, and Knight, I don't know if he was supposed to go right out to the floor or what, but he kind of got hung up and took a bit of a nasty bump, off of there. Finally, TJP, Acura, Eagles, and Fujita were all on top of the ladder. One by one, they dropped off. Fujita gave Acura a Dragon Sleeper to put him out, and then grabbed the belts to win them for him and Robbie Eagles. I wrote an exciting spot fest and a very American style opener.
Yeah, I also noted totally just American style plunder ladder match. But a lot of fun. Sucked to be Kevin Knight. Not only did he have that last bump, he had when they did the spot where they try to do the perfect timing with Knight coming off the top of the ladder on Drilla Maloney, and he just barely connected and then just ate shit. So, and apparently his contract is up, and we don't know if he's going to be staying or going. Man, how do you
Uh,
not want that guy for your junior heavyweight division?
I mean, no one really has a junior heavyweight division. Or I can't say nobody, but I mean, of the major companies, it's really only New Japan that has a dedicated junior heavyweight division.
No, Noah,
Honestly,
Noah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Noah has a junior heavyweight division.
Okay, but I'm thinking like, Noah, I mean, is a bit of a step down. I'm like thinking, between the three major options, WWE, AEW, New Japan, New Japan's the only one with a junior heavyweight division. Honestly, like, I mean, I don't know him well enough to say whether or not he'd stand out in either of the other two companies, but at this point, especially if he's enjoying his time in New Japan, I just stay put because both WWE and AEW are just badly overloaded with talent that, I don't think he'd really have the opportunity to go too far.
Yeah, hope he stays. By the way, Fujita's first title, and also he's the youngest IWGP champion in history.
Isn't he like 22, I think I saw?
23, which means he would have to. I didn't look up the dates, but the one that he would be beating out would be Shinsuke Nakamura, winning the IWGP Heavyweight title at 23.
Congratulations. And by the way, you said Fujita. Is it Fujita or Fujita? Because I guess it's Chris Charlton being Chris Charlton, but he was saying Fujita, so that's what I noted was the pronunciation.
It's probably Fujita. I just can't help to turn that into Fujita sometimes.
It's the American thing to do.
Yeah.
And speaking of the American thing to do, Mayu Iwatani was up next, defending the women's title against somebody who every time I ever saw her name listed, I said the letters AZM because when you put three capital letters next to each other, I just assume I'm supposed to say the three capital letters. Of course, forgetting this is New Japan, where, well, I guess she's Stardom, but I mean, still, it's New Japan, where people's names sometimes get all capitalized for some random reason. However, at least in those cases, it's like Sonata, Yoshihashi and Evil, names that you can actually like you can look at if you're just a random dumbass American and be able to pronounce them. You you say we had this discussion. I have no memory of it, but apparently this woman's name is
Azumi.
Azumi, Azumi, which is not AZM. There should be a couple extra vowels in there somewhere. So anyway, Azumi had the first big move of the match as she does a running jump from the top rope and a dive over the post to Iwatani on the floor. We'll get to this later, but please stop diving over the post. They did that stupid double foot stomp off the top rope while the opponent holds themselves up in the rope spot that I seriously hate almost more than any other spot in the world. I think the only other spot I hate more than that is the head stuck in the turnbuckle spot, which at least I haven't seen in a goddamn long time. But this fucking double foot stomp the person taking the foot stomp has to hold themselves up to take it. I hate that fucking move.
Yeah.
Um, so the crowd did get into this a bit, but of the three women's matches, actually, the three women's matches we see there, this is in the middle of crowd reactions, in my opinion. Um,
Hmm.
Mayu missed the moonsault. Azumi hits a Canadian destroyer. Again, why is Petey Williams the only person in the history of wrestling to ever win with a Canadian destroyer? She then hit a double underhook Canadian destroyer for another near fall because, again, Mayu's German suplex was crazy. But so, in case you've never seen this, and I'm sure I've seen it at some point, but I forgot it because, again, I don't watch Stardom. Mayu does a German suplex. She lands on her, Mayu, is on her knees and is bent completely backwards and just in an obscenely bendy position. And she was bent up as much as Azumi was here. Mayu hit the moonsault for another 2 count and then one with what I wrote a variation of a dragon suplex. Definitely a good match.
Double Dragon Suplex. Yeah, hell of a match. I wish they'd had another 5 minutes.
All right. TV champion Ren Narita versus El Phantasmo versus Jeff Cobb versus Ryohei Oiwa, whose name I probably butchered there, for the TV title. And I wrote, does this match have a 15-minute time limit, even though it's a four-way? And the answer is apparently
Yes.
yes. I,
Hmm.
you just expect all four ways or three ways. There's no time limit. You just go as long as you need. So it's a four-way. So I'm like, okay, it's not the TV time limit, but it is.
It is.
So Ren Narita's Tron said sold out, spelled like the NWO pay-per-view from 1997, giving me not only bad 1997 flashbacks, but also reminding me that in a couple books I'm gonna have to review that fucking show. Um, Phantasmo, this is his first match since, God knows when, since what, May, June, somewhere like that.
No, it wasn't his first match because he wrestled on the last Korakuen show in December. He, when was it? September or October would have been the last time.
Really?
He had
That was
a
earlier than that.
no, it wasn't. It was like it was after the G1. He
Oh.
had a cancer scare, and this was his second match back.
But by the way, Walker Stewart, who has dramatically improved in the past year, because I mentioned on one of our other shows, I hated his performance at last year's Wrestle Kingdom. And so I was dreading it because this was, I really only watch one New Japan show a year. So I was not going into this with high hopes for the announcing, but he's improved tenfold. And in the line of the night, he says that cancer has lost its battle with El Phantasmo, which I just marked out for.
Happy to
Uh,
see ELP back.
yes. Jeff Cobb did a fucking tope over the top rope to all three.
Yes,
And I'm like,
Tope Cop Hilo.
yeah, that's the New Japan version of the annual Undertaker dive.
Yeah,
Cobb did a powerbomb to Oi. Oh my God. The even more so than that, I'm still marking out for this spot. So thankfully this has kind of gone out of the way, but you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it seemed like every wrestling show ever did a stacked up stupid plex on every fucking show. You know the
Mm-hmm.
move, someone will be doing a superplex and you get some people underneath for the power bomb, and it's usually horribly mistimed. You wonder how the person taking the original superplex didn't die. Well, so Oiwa goes to give El Phantasmo a superplex, and Jeff Cobb gets underneath them. Now, at this point, Oiwa lifts Phantasmo up, and they are on top of Jeff Cobb's shoulders while he's got him in perfect superplex position. That was fucking mental.
Yeah,
That
Jeff Cobb is like a freak.
that is some freakish strength there. And it was only a few seconds, but I marked the fuck out here. Narita had a board that he tried to use, but Jado, who was one of the seconds, and I didn't even know who he was with, he stole it.
ELP.
Okay. And the challengers laid out the champions. Oiwa had one with a Dr. Bomb, but Narita yanked the ref out of the ring. Narita gave Oiwa wood, but then Cobb stole it and broke the wood. Cobb hit Tour of the Islands, but ELP broke it up, and then pinned Narita with a top rope springboard splash to win the championship belt. Simple in some ways, spectacular in others.
This was very good. Would you like to hear the convoluted way of how Jado became ELP's manager?
Sure, why not?
You remember like 2019 or whatever the whatever Jay
Three
White's whole
lifetimes
big
ago?
Jay White's whole big betrayal of Chaos and joining Bullet Club, and so Jado and Gato joined Bullet Club with them, and then for whatever reason, just Jado became the manager of Guerrillas of Destiny, Tamatanga and
Hmm.
Tangaloa. And then so when Hikuleo came in, he managed him too. And then after Bullet Club turned on ELP and he turned babyface, he didn't have anywhere to like be, he didn't have any friends, so he ended up joining Guerrillas of Destiny. So Jado became his manager too, and then just all the Tongans left to go to WWE. So then we just got ELP with Jado.
Okay, then. I mean, it could be worse, It doesn't seem terrible anyway.
Nah,
So,
people like it. People like ELP.
so while you were talking about that, I looked at the next match, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Evil, and wrote that Evil gets a funeral march for an entrance theme. I swear we couldn't be any more on the nose if we tried. So I start trying to think of Evil's theme song, and for whatever reason, instead of Evil's theme song, I got Taichi's theme song stuck in my head now. And
Uh, that was really different.
yeah. By the way, I think it's like because that opening chord of Taichi's theme is a little dark and I don't say depressing, but dark and
Yeah.
evil kind of. But by the way, to this day, I'm still impressed by Taichi's ability to sing his theme song the exact same way every single night.
What a talent.
I know. How does he not have a major recording contract? So we get Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Evil in a lumberjack death match. And again, I don't watch New Japan all the time, but I at least think that I follow what's going on and thought I had all the steps down for the show. But apparently I missed this one because I know that Tanahashi's retiring next Wrestle Kingdom, but apparently both his career and his hair were on the line in this match. And I had to confirm that it was only Tanahashi's hair and not Evil's hair as well. But so the Lumberjacks were Sho, Dick Togo, and Yashinamu Kanamura were Evil's Lumberjacks, and Toru Yano, Bolton Oleg, Tiger Mask, and Master Wato were Tanahashi's Lumberjacks. And for some reason, I knew this because I looked at the match listing multiple times ahead of time. I thought Wato was in the junior title match. So like especially towards the end of this match where he gets spray painted, I'm like, huh, he's gonna have to run back and shower that off here. But he wasn't in the junior title match. So
No.
I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, Evil put a chair around Tana's head and then used the second chair like a baseball bat to hit it. This is where I wrote outs of torture spray painted Watto's chest as well. Later in the match, Evil tried running away, but Bolton chased him down and brought him back to the ring. The ref got bumped and a nine-way broke out. Chris Charlton announced the house always wins, and I started looking for Julia Hart, but sadly, my crimped hair goth goddess did not show up, which is not the last time I say that during this show today. Instead, Dick Togo gave Tanahashi a chop to the dick. Some nice dick on dick crime there. Eventually, the babyface Lumberjacks took out the heel Lumberjacks, leaving us with the two real participants. Tanahashi went for the high fly flow, but Evil pushed the referee into the ropes, crotching Tanahashi. Dick threw salt into Tanahashi's face. Evil used Darkness Falls and then put on the sharpshooter, but the referee did not ring the damn bell, so Evil was a kayfabe idiot and let it go. Evil used Everything is Evil, but Tana used a small package for the win. Again, it's my one House of Torture match a year, so I didn't hate it as much as you might have. But again, it's still you can just feel, even if you only watch one a year, you can feel the frustration in watching House of Torture matches.
Yeah, I know that I'm just really desensitized to these matches at this point, but I didn't hate this. I thought that what they intended to do was done well. Um, Tanahashi's hair was spectacular. Feel like I should mention.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Master Watto got painted just to show that Evil was a dickhead. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
Watto always gets the shit end of the stick, doesn't he?
Well,
Bolton Oleg.
Evil's not called good.
Yeah. I love
Uh,
Bolton Oleg, by the way. He's like, to me, he's like what we see on the Mid South shows with like Dr. Death in 1983. Like, he's green, but you know when he figures some shit out, he's going to be something special.
yes.
And he was kind of got a little bit of a starring role in this, fucking carrying Evil's ass back to the ring. The referee was also sick of Evil shit. What I needed and didn't get was the ring announcer that Evil fucking throws somebody into every match. I need that ring announcer to get his revenge.
Uh,
Also when they had the big brawl and Sho and Kanemaru tried to suplex Bolton and Bolton suplexed both of them. It was fantastic.
yes. All
The
right.
one,
That I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, never mind.
Okay. Well then, if you were to pull out your 2025 wrestling bingo card and you had what was like, okay, this is all definitely going to happen in 2025. I'll tell you one thing you never would have had on that bingo card. Because House of Torture is beating up Tanahashi when suddenly a man in a hoodie got in the ring and helped out. And that man in the hoodie was Katsuyori Shibata, which,
In an AEW hoodie.
yes, which was wacky enough. And then it got wackier because he challenged Tanahashi to a match on January 5th. And it was
Mm-hmm.
accepted. And we'll get to that later on, but apparently what they agreed to was a 5 minute exhibition, which we'll get to that because it was tremendous. And
Yes.
speaking of fucking tremendous, we've had a good show so far. We had some good matches, nothing really blow away. And then Shingo Takagi came out next to defend the never openweight title against AEW International Champion Konosuke Takeshita, with Don Callis in his corner putting up Takeshita's title in a title for title match. A minute in, we were on a completely different level of anything we've seen so far. This was shades of the old never title matches that got me into New Japan with the hard hitting, stiff, strong style action. The match was 10 minutes old, and I realized I hadn't written anything because I was just staring at the match and just watching. They traded Poison Ranas. Takeshita landed on his feet and powered forward with a forearm to the back of the head. Takeshita with a forearm smash that made my head hurt, and then he wins with a spinning Falcon Arrow to pick up the never open weight title.
Yeah, I didn't write much about it either, other than that it was a beautiful symphony of violence. It was exactly what I expected. I only wish they'd had more time. Like I think they could have an even better match if they were like a G1 where they were like the main event of the show when they had 20-25 minutes. I think they could do something even better, but yeah, this was awesome.
Well, then we got a match that I'm not sure
Oh.
I'm not sure if it was a good match. It was I don't know what could have followed that last match, but I think this match would have had trouble even under the best of circumstances. So Doki came out to defend the junior heavyweight title against El Desperado. Doki's entrance included Shido Nakamura, a Japanese film actor, doing a kabuki dance. And I actually thought, because I mean, I'm not familiar with the name, I thought Shido Nakamura was a woman until I looked them up on on Google. Turns out it's a guy. So
Huh.
this match goes about 3 minutes, and I'm gonna bet it was supposed to go a lot longer than 3 minutes. Probably add at least a one at the beginning of there. But Desperado does a fantastically smooth suicide dive out of the ring. It's hard to call a dive through the rope smooth, but that was smooth. The finish, not so smooth. Remember what I mentioned earlier that you should not dive over the ring post anymore? Doki drove over the ring post with a seated senton to Desperado, where he landed and fucked up his elbow. Um, if you remember when Kota Ibushi did the Phoenix Splash and fucked up his arm, and there was like that hesitation for like a good 30 to 45 seconds before they rang the bell. Marty Asami realized pretty much immediately something was fucked up here and called the match off. Desperado was given the win and the title, and Doki was a bunch of medics came down to give medical attention. Desperado was not the happiest new champion you've ever seen in your life. He took the mic and said he won't apologize because this was the inevitable result and promised to do this match again one day. And I'll be honest, I forgot to do any digging, but I didn't see anything about Doki's condition. Did you?
Have not. I'm sure we'll hear something maybe, you know, Mars Monday, so maybe then. It's look okay. Here were the notes that I wrote about this match. So there's kind of a theme here. This is Doki's first singles match at the Tokyo Dome, so you know he's about to do some crazy shit. Desperado does a topic on Hilo. Is lucky he didn't break his leg on the barricade like happened to Eddie Kingston last year. And then Doki does the ass first dive on the floor and fucks up his elbow. So I get just I feel like I on some level knew that something bad was going to happen here, and I hate it for my guy Doki.
Yeah. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully that all turns out well and he can come back 100%. And yeah, David Finlay with Gedo defended the global title next against Yota Tsuji. First big move, Tsuji going for a suicide dive, but Finlay caught him and threw him into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. And then this was kind of unique here. So he drops him on the ring apron, and then throws him in the direction of the ring post. And whether or not he was supposed to hit the ring post, who knows? But he didn't. And Suji basically put on the brakes, but Finlay exploded with basically a pounce to send Suji crashing and burning into the guardrail. Which I gotta say, I was not expecting David Finlay to break that kind of thing out here. Um,
No, that was yeah, this match was pretty nuts.
Suji did a Fosbury flop, and you know, I
Yes.
I watched TNA forever, and AJ Styles did that move a billion times. And honestly, if you told me that Yota Tsuji stood on the mat and did a moonsault over the top rope, that is closer to what he did than the AJ Styles Fosbury flop. 'Cause AJ was more like he would barely get over the top rope kind of thing. Yota Tsuji essentially did a full backflip from the mat over the top rope with his feet straight up in the air, and I was like, "God damn, pal, that
He's a
that
freak athlete.
that was fucking freaky." Um, the story of this match, Finlay kept hitting one big move after another, but Tsuji wouldn't stay down. Finlay gave Tsuji a Uranagi through a table. Tsuji barely beat the count back into the ring. Finlay used a super bomb and then a dominator. So I wrote that he's been watching his 2000 WWF Raw tapes and then broke out the repeated power bombs with a buckle bomb thrown in. So he's been studying Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. And yes, I'm aware that other people have used those moves. Finlay used the renamed Coping with Loss, which is what I'm now calling the Spear since Ed shortened his name. But Suji hit a stun dog millionaire where Finlay barely got his foot on the ropes. Suji kicked out of overdrive, hit a power bomb, and another Coping with Loss for the win and the title.
It is overkill, not overdrive,
Oh, I
and
apologize.
it is the Gene Blaster
Not the
because
Coping
Gene
with Loss.
Blast, Gene Blast Yoda Tsuji blast his genes all over the place.
I hope that's
A
actually
great
the name of
match.
it for that reason.
It is, yeah, Gene Blaster. That's what it's called.
Okay, then.
Uh, this was really, really good. I think David Finlay silenced a lot of doubters. I've been saying like since last year or the 2023 G1, they're like, no, he's actually good. People just have like this weird thing about him. And
His
then the last G1, he was so good that it was just like, look, at this point, like if you're still shitting on David Finlay, you got to be doing a bit. And this is finally like all the people who only watch the one New Japan show a year finally saw that like, yeah, David Finlay's fucking great.
I just wish whatever's going on with him and his brother would work itself out because I'd love to see David Finlay and his brother Hornswoggle show up on New Japan sometime.
David Brogan and Swoggle for never six-man champs.
Did you see? I don't think I sent you the clip, but I told you about it. JBL went to some indie show and recreated the WrestleMania spot where he threw a garbage can at Swoggle.
No, it's funny.
Uh, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiromu Takahashi in a match that was supposed to happen at the 48th anniversary show in 2020, but got canceled due to COVID. And hey, they promised that they would do it someday. It only took them almost 5 years to do it. Um, so I definitely got the impression that the fans did not want to see this match. And it's not obviously because the match has been overdone. And it's not because the match was going to be a bad match. It's that, hey, these two have been in a stable forever together. And it didn't, like, other than just to do the match, it didn't seem like there was a reason to do the match.
Well, that
Uh,
was it was the whole reason was to do the match. That was the whole point.
yeah. And I think also it's hard, especially when you got longtime partners and friends that there was no dissension, at least to the best of my knowledge, going into this. It was just,
None.
hey, hey, my good friend Tetsuya, you want to have a match? And he's like, sure, why the hell not?
These guys won World Tag League less than a month ago.
Yes, I know that.
And and it was no, it was literally like the whole time because they have history going back to like Hiromu was a young lion and he was on the verge of getting fired when Naito was like, "Well, let me have him."
Hmm.
So like he kind of just owes his career to Naito, and they've been partners for years. Naito has all or not Naito. Hiromu has always wanted the singles match, and I guess Naito never really wanted to do it. It was gonna happen in 2020 just by virtue of like on the anniversary show they like to do the heavyweight champion against the junior champion, and it just worked out. And then it didn't work out because the whole world nothing worked out for like 2 years. So the thing was they finally they win World Tag League, and then that's when Naito just finally goes, okay, we'll do the match. And
Hmm.
that was the whole story to set up this match.
All right. So the match was all right, not great, but not awful. I was shocked. I'm not shocked, but I was surprised a bit by the finish because it definitely felt like the point of Wrestle Kingdom 2025 was to get the next generation going, to elevate the next generation. And like, I mean, Tanahashi took on Evil, so that doesn't really count. But like, it seemed like the whole card was let's get new talent going here. Let's get them into position. Let's give them big wins. And so I went into this fully expecting Hiromu to pick up the win. Naito won. He won with the Destino. And to be honest, I was surprised, but you were surprised that I was surprised.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people sort of they assume things about New Japan based on just what they assume to be general wrestling logic. And they, if you really watch New Japan, you get used to the rhythms. And it's just the way that Gato books, that he's booked this whole run, it's just upsets like that are so incredibly rare that I just never expect them.
Hmm.
So on occasion they do happen, and I'm pleasantly surprised. But I'm never surprised when they go with the safe choice.
See, I wasn't going to look at it as an upset. I was going to look at it as, and we've talked about Naito is, I don't know how old he is, but he's been wrestling for a long time. He's honestly closer to his last match than he is his first match. And it felt like, okay, Naito's gonna start working his way down because Naito was never the ace of the company. Even when he was champion, he was never the ace. So Naito's starting to work his way down. Hiromu's working his way up, and I don't know if it's his first match against a heavyweight, but it's his first Tokyo Dome match against a heavyweight. So he's working his way up. He's moving on a little bit. So I figured he would get the win and get elevated a bit here. But I guess in a lot of ways, like I was trying to argue on the TNA show that's going to drop on Wednesday with Jason Cross and Sonny Siaki, that Jason Cross, just by having a good competitive match with the X Division champion, would have been elevated without the overbooked bullshit they did. Hiromu got elevated just by having a good competitive match here.
He did. It was very good. A lot of people were down on the match too. I wasn't. It's just like, to me, again, it it's another example of like the people who only watch one show a year,
Hmm.
because that's always like the best Naito. And really,
Hmm.
like the last time Naito was on that level was like last year. You've really seen over the course of the last year that Naito really doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So like this is as good a Naito singles match as we're gonna get at this point.
I think part of the problem, and I mean, you can't entirely blame this because I mean the talent level in New Japan has dropped off because of all the people leaving. But I mean, it was a few years ago when you watched Wrestle Kingdom and they're going five or six, the top five or six matches are all, 4+ star matches. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and give star ratings, but I would not give, if I were, Hiromu and Naito would not have been a 4+ star match, and I think that's probably where the disappointment comes in.
Yeah, and that's just going into something with unreal expectations, I guess.
So I don't know if Unreal Expectations is the right description of our main event here. So Zack Sabre Jr. versus Shota Umino for the IWGP title, with Red Shoes, Shota Umino's father, Red Shoes, as the referee. And I note that he will undoubtedly be a less biased referee than David Manning on Royal Class. Now the match begins, and Walker Stewart and Chris Charlton are really, really stressing. This is the 60-minute time limit. Like there's time limits in every New Japan match, and they usually note them, especially for important matches. We made a note or I mentioned something in the opener about the ladder match having a 60-minute time limit. And I know they said something during the women's title match too. But this was the match they were really stressing it. And they were talking about how the longest match in Tokyo Dome history was like 48 minutes, and I'm like, they're going 60 minutes. They're doing a time limit draw here, and I noted that if Gorilla Monsoon was announcing, I would say it's a guarantee they're going 60 because Gorilla was god awful at telegraphing shit like that. Of course, I'd also be freaked out if Gorilla Monsoon came back from the dead to do commentary for this match, but that
That'd
probably
be
goes
cool.
without saying. Now, part of what made me think they were going 60, not just the commentary, this match was slow. Um, it like it picked up obviously, but the match started slow. Like the first 12 or so minutes I noted, was a lot of very good mat wrestling, but very good mat wrestling isn't always the most exciting thing to watch. The first tie spot, Shota did a DDT on the ring apron that had ZSJ doing a headstand without his arms. He was just holding himself up by his head on the apron, which was just tremendous. Um, at one point, ZSJ was stretching Shota and attempted to see if he could make Shota's arms touch behind his back, but ZSJ was a quitter because we didn't get an answer to whether or not they could. About 27 minutes in, we started teasing finishers and big kickouts. Saber got on a heel hook and transitioned that into a variation of the Indian Deathlock. And this is where the drama really picked up. And the match ends up going 44 minutes, but like the drama of this here, this is where it all like the peak of the match, I would say, was when Saber had on the Indian Deathlock and Red Shoes. Red Shoes is Shota Umino's shoot dad, and he's having to watch his son in a shit ton of pain, trying to fight to get to the ropes in the biggest, most important match of his career. And I I don't say the crowd didn't get it. I don't say the crowd didn't care, but the crowd wasn't as into this as I was, I'll say. Um, but Shota eventually makes it to the ropes. At one point, Saber was dangling Shota off of the ground in a guillotine while Saber was standing on the middle ropes. Umino got out of that and hit the Death Rider off the top rope, but he was too injured and exhausted to make a cover. Umino began stomping between Saber's shoulder blades and actually shoved down his dad at one point because they were in the ropes while he was doing that. Red Shoes tried pulling him away again, and Shota just kept stomping away before finally breaking. We break down into a slap fight that the champ got the better of. Saber hit a Zack driver, a cradle pile driver, and I called it a Zack driver and a Saber driver, but he hit the damn move again and picked up the win in 44 minutes. And Zack Saber Jr. retains the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
The Saber Driver You've Been Tangoed special was the name of the winning hold because it wouldn't be Zach if there wasn't some wacky name.
Yes, I heard them say something wacky, and I'm like, I could not find anything online that matched what they said, and that's why I asked you, and you said it's a Saber driver. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so I think I may not be exactly right here. The Zack driver is just the Michinoku driver number two. The Saber driver is the Michinoku driver two with the cross leg, and the You've Been Tangoed special is the Michinoku driver two with the cross leg spinning.
Okay. All right. So while Saber was celebrating, they announced in passing that Naito and Hiromu basically added themselves to the tag team title match at Dynasty, and that Great Khan chose Jeff Cobb as a partner.
Hmm.
So for Wrestle Kingdom, I don't know. I guess like I would defer to your thoughts on this, but for me, I would have given it closer to a thumbs in the middle show as an overall show than anything else. Like I don't know, it was really good, but I was also disappointed in a lot of it.
Yeah, I look, it's a thumbs up for me. I thought it was a great show. It's not what Wrestle Kingdom was 7 or 8 years ago, but it's just people are going to judge it by those standards. There's no way around it. But for me, for someone who loves New Japan, I thought it was a terrific show. And I certainly seem to be in the minority in that I really liked the main event. But like to me, knowing the context, I appreciated the story that they told. I appreciated what the match meant to the characters. It's I feel like a lot of the things that people have complained about with this match, especially with Shota looking like he was unprepared, looking like he was in over his head, looking like he wasn't the guy and didn't need to be in this position, I believe was A, intentional, and two, the point.
Hmm.
So yeah, I will be arguing for months and possibly years to come about this match, and I am gonna be a staunch defender of this match.
I really liked it. I did think that there were parts that could have been a lot better, but we'll see how this plays out in the future. So from here we
Indeed.
go to the next day, January 5th, 2025, Wrestle Dynasty. Now, the original plan, as you may have heard us talk about in the past, was we were going to watch this show live, Wrestle Dynasty, and then record a podcast late at night. And to make a very, very, very long story short, I was fucking falling asleep halfway through the show and just decided, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna go to bed now and we'll do the podcast Sunday night instead. And thankfully Trey did not murder me because of all the drama that I was causing before about getting this fucking show taped. So
Yeah.
uh,
I didn't I didn't want to do the show at 2 o'clock in the morning anyway, so
yeah,
I was happy with the decision.
yeah. I'm not even sure why I was obsessed, other than it's tradition for me to do the Wrestle Kingdom show immediately after it ends. So it's like, to me, it's like, of course we're gonna do it at 3 in the morning. Why the fuck wouldn't we do it at 3 in the morning, Trey?
Well,
So,
because I get very excited and animated when I talk about wrestling, and my wife is asleep uh,
and she probably
25 feet away.
ah, I was unaware she was that close to you, and we do these shows.
I mean, it's like the next room over. It's
Uh,
only like a couple of dozen feet.
mm, okay, all right. So with that, we moved ahead. Now, because of that, when I went to sleep halfway through the show, um, I I watched three of the matches in my car at Gillette Stadium, one before, two after the Patriots Bills game, and the last two matches at home. I took no notes for the last five matches. So when we get to that point, I'm gonna have to tag out the Trey to be the leader in the discussion. But we'll kick things off and we'll go from there with the International Women's Cup four-way with Momo Watanabe, with the Toxic Spider, which is a tremendous nickname, Thekla, which is a name.
Tekla,
Yeah, Thekla. That's what I said, didn't I? Thekla.
Tekla.
Oh, I wrote Thekla with an H because that's what I.
That's how it's spelled, but they always pronounce it Tekla.
Oh, okay. Well, the Toxic Spider is a tremendous nickname. I'm just gonna say
Yes,
that.
she's tremendous all around.
Versus Athena versus Willow Nightingale versus Persephone in International Women's Cup four-way. I gotta say, when I saw this match originally scheduled for the pre-show, I wasn't I don't want to say I wasn't happy, but I wasn't jumping up and down because I figured with all the hype and all the build they put into this, it would be a main card match. But especially by the end of the show, I'm like, it was right where it needed to be. It was if not the opener, it was a pre-show match, you know, all things considered. Athena had a spinner belt, and it took me way too long to realize that that is apparently a personally made ROH women's title, because I was trying to figure out what fucking title belt did she win that she was wearing, because she had the regular ROH women's title on her shoulder and then this spinner belt. I'm like, was she, because I know she had done some wrestling over the last few days, Like, did she win a title in DDT or something? And because I don't know, DDT seemed like it would have a spinner belt, but no, it was just the ROH title. Chris Charlton said that it was time for Athena to move up in competition. I don't think anyone is denying that. Momo tried to bring in a hammer, but got stopped. This match was really fast paced, and the crowd, I think because it was the opener, the crowd really wasn't into it. Plus, how many of these women had they ever seen before? Like, I know Willow was the strong women's champion, but had she ever been to Japan at all? And I mean,
Yes, yeah. Willow's been to Japan a few times. This was
and,
Athena's first time in Japan, and Persephone's too, I assume.
and I guess they might know Watanabe, but again, I don't know how much Stardom they really watch here. But but yeah, the crowd wasn't really into this much, but it could have just been because it was the very first match. Persephone did a tornado to Athena and Momo. Willow had taken a step backwards to avoid it, and then took Persephone's head off with a clothesline. I maybe we'll see if you agree with me on this. Facially, I thought Persephone had a good resemblance to Nikki Cross,
I
or
see
maybe,
it.
or maybe I just think all pale women with black hair look alike. I don't know.
Something to that too. I don't know. I didn't think that, but now that you mention it, I can see it.
So Athena had it won with an O face on Willow, but Tekla pulled the referee out of the ring. And then Momo swung a fucking bat at Athena's face and won with a move called Peak Sunrise. Jesus fucking Christ. I gotta tell you, I was not expecting her to swing a bat at Athena's face.
Yeah, that was very fucking violent. It looked like hopefully that did not look as gnarly, or hopefully
Or,
that did not feel as gnarly as it looked. That was
yeah,
fucking a terrible bat shot. And the one thing I couldn't have guessed who was going to win this match. The one thing that I was certain of is that Athena wasn't going to get pinned, and Athena got pinned. And
and hey,
Momo Watanabe, from what I could tell just by looking through Cage Match and my own records and my own memory, the last person to pin Athena was Jade Cargill at All Out 2022.
hey, I was at that show. Um,
Hmm.
yes, that was Brawl Out. So it does make sense because Momo used her one title shot to challenge Athena for the ROH title at the next Stardom show. Um, I will say that it looked a lot more violent, that bat shot, than the famous one with Sammy Callahan and Eddie Edwards in TNA that time. That fucked up Eddie Edwards' face.
Yeah,
Um,
it didn't quite look that terrible.
all right. So up next was one of those why is this match happening kind of matches, except just because, Dustin Rhodes. It told the story of Dustin Rhodes being on the first January 4th Tokyo Dome show in 1992 and now in this one. Um, do you want to explain, or do you want to try to tell the people how the announcer pronounced the state that Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes are hail from?
Sons of Tekisasu!
Yeah, there were about 6 or 7 syllables in there. Um, but Sons of Texas defend the ROH tag team titles against Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Um, and House of Torture match, and I was sitting here like, are we really gonna have a fucking House of Torture match on the pre-show? Like, and I'm expecting, 85 people doing run-ins, and they don't. There are actually no run-ins at all in this match. They do adhere to the code of honor, kind of, but Kanemaru hit Dustin from behind to start the match. They get the heat on Sammy. Sho throws the ROH tag title on the mat and rubbed his foot on it, which, hey, why would he be going up to the title he has so little respect for, but oh well. Sammy uses a code breaker that Walker called a face breaker, which not a he's not lying, it's just not usually the name that people call it. And like I mentioned, they really played up Dustin having wrestled on the January 4th, 92 Tokyo Dome, teaming with Dusty Rhodes as part of the Super Warriors at Tokyo Dome show. And Trey, I'm afraid I probably should have told you not to look this up so I could ask you on the show to see what your memory is. But do you know who they wrestled on that show in 92?
Masa Saito? Is that one of
And
them?
yes, it is.
Uh, Kim Duck?
Yes.
Yay.
And Kim Duck. um, the referee was a New Japan referee, and I was curious, how does this New Japan referee have jurisdiction in an ROH title match? But probably the least of our worries. And Dustin pinned Kanemaru after a final reckoning and a Sammy Guevara senton. It was a fine pre-show match. I mean, it was a pre-show match. It was like, it would have been horribly out of place on the main card. Uh,
Yeah, this was good. It was random, but it just tickles me that Dustin Rhodes was wrestling Yoshinobu Kanemaru at the Tokyo Dome because they're just like two of my favorite just grizzled old veteran wrestler types.
mhm.
And I thought they had a very nice match. Sammy was very athletically impressive, hit an incredible Acai moonsault. Dustin was so good that he was starting to get over with the crowd here.
Mhm.
And then had a good finishing stretch. I thought it was a very good match. But yeah, this was a pre-show match. It wouldn't have made sense on the main card, but as a pre-show match, this was an absolute win.
Yes. By the way, I forgot to note that they gave Momo Watanabe a giant trophy for winning, and the lid of the trophy fell off.
Uh, yeah, I think they said that Athena is defending the ROH Women's title against Tekla on
Oh, I
January 13th at Corkin Hall.
I thought they said that was Momo's match.
I thought I read Tekla. I could be mistaken.
Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I read I I read what I wanted to read. Maybe I don't know, but we'll see what happens on January 13th. Um, we're great at this fucking thing, aren't we? Um, so there were still 25 minutes left before the main show, so I went and made a giant pancake that I never actually finished eating. Um, I still have one. I had one bite of pancake left, and I threw it out this morning because I was too stupid to throw it out last night. Um, we then get the Lucha Gauntlet match, which is essentially New Japan and CMLL trying to do a casino gauntlet match. Number one, Hechicero. Number two, Kosei Fujita. Number three, Soberano Jr. And Soberano is trying to win, which is a big plus. Because the one thing I hate about these matches, and we'll see if AEW does the same thing Wednesday, because this happened on the London show. The whole point of a match is trying to win, and no one's trying to win. And Soberano tries to win a couple times here. He gets a few pinfall attempts. I think he gets in a submission. But literally, as soon as number four comes in, that pretty much was it for anyone trying to win the match until it was time to win the match, which is, I just hate it. But yeah, we'll fight about that some other day, I'm sure. Number four is Master Watto. Soberano, I wrote, is driving like crazy. And I also see that Watto showered after a House of Torture spray painted him yesterday.
You'd hope so.
Yes. Number five is Mascara Dorada. I cannot even begin to describe anything going on here because they're going so fast, but everything is so fucking crisp. And it's like, it reminds me of why I got so into WCW in like 96, 97 when they brought in all those fucking luchadors just doing crazy shit that I'd never seen before. And this, like, even though, like, let's be honest, like, we've seen pretty much everything these days, but these guys were so fucking great at this. Uh,
Yeah, this was really cool. What the fuck was Soberano wearing? Was that a crown of gold thorns?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
He also did a sweet Fosbury flop.
Number six was Taiji Ishimori. who understood the rules of the match as he slapped on La Mystica. Number 7 is Titan. And number 8 in our 8-person Lucha Gauntlet match, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion El Desperado, who was doing commentary during the pre-show. So it was very Nigel McGuinnessy of him. And I loved this. So Desperado's walking to the ring. He's going down the long ass ramp, and everybody in the ring stops. It's as if it's Muhammad Hassan coming out, and everyone just stopping and looking at this motherfucker. And Desperado stops on the ramp and sees all 7 wrestlers just standing there staring at him. And you can kind of see the look on his face like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked here. And he kind of starts walking backwards. And I'm like, oh my God, I want him to run away now. Which, okay, maybe I would have been the only person marking out for the junior heavyweight champion running away from a 7-on-1 handicap match. But hey, you got to work smarter, not harder sometimes. Um, so since he was in a hurry to get to the ring, they went and got him. They all dragged Desperado to the ring and took turns hitting big moves. And for some reason, I don't know why, because God knows the last time they ever got mentioned on TV. But this made me think about the Nexus from WWE when they
Yeah.
debuted. And maybe it's because it seemed like everybody was doing the fucking wasteland to poor Desperado. But um it's just like they were all standing around and each took turns hitting a big move. And of course, the Scumbag Alliance falls apart the second someone goes for the cover. We get a giant dive sequence culminating in Dorada doing a shooting star press off the middle rope, like Billy Kidman tried to do at WrestleMania 20, but fucked up. And then after throwing the referee into Fujita and Desperado, Ishimori rolled up Desperado for the win. And safe to assume, based on this pretty easy booking, that Ishimori is going to get a title match coming up.
Again, a very safe booking decision. But yeah,
Yes.
sure, why not? Ishimori won to set up a junior title match against Desperado. It's fine.
Now,
Uh, it Taiji Ishimori is the Randy Orton of the New Japan Junior division, and it's like he's never like the star of stars, but he's the guy that can be heated up and put in a championship position anytime you need him, and he's going to deliver.
now,
So
now, has he not been around much? Because at least what they made it seem like, you know, that they don't that this was a big return or something. But to be honest, again, I haven't been watching much New Japan.
no, he's been around. Uh,
Okay.
not really, but yeah, it was. I don't know. I kind of thought that Hechicero should win and
Hmm.
and leverage that into because he's wrestling Zach next week in San Jose. So I thought he should have won and been like, "Hey, I won the thing. Let's make that a title match." But they
Okay.
didn't. It was Ishimori pinning Desperado, which is completely fine. Uh, I wrote as soon as a new guy came in, it was just him and the last guy until the next guy came out. They didn't do anything creative with all the bodies they had available. And then right as I finished writing that, Ishimori, Titan, and Dorada did like a really cool 3-way sequence.
I will
Uh,
say, and again, like this match went as long as it needed to go, but like especially like I wasn't timing. I don't know if you did, but they were keeping these 1 minute entrances pretty close to a shoot 1 minute. And so between that and the long ass ramp, it a lot of times was just a series of entrances, which, it's at that point, it's like you're kind of like, okay, let's just put all 8 guys in the ring at once instead of this. But, you know, I liked the idea of it. I liked the idea of not knowing who was in the match until they came out. Of course, it didn't help that the announcers didn't know, not only didn't know who the hell was in the match, but even when their music was playing, they didn't know who the hell was coming out until it came out in big dumb letters on the Tron.
yeah, well, they wouldn't have recognized the music for half of the guys in the match, so that kind of is forgivable, I think. But
So,
yeah, really, really fun time and the perfect place on the card. A good, just good stuff.
so we get, I I'm not going to say this is the match of the night because it's not, but I'm going to say I would. This is a match that no that I guarantee I will rewatch many, many times. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Mr. President, versus Katsuyori Shibata in a 5 minute exhibition. And I wrote, when you're the president, you get to do things like put Shibata in a match. And Chris Charlton, in his first snarky comment of the day, mentioned Shibata's head injury and also brought up Shibata going into business for himself a few years ago. I think it was at Wrestle Kingdom when he was supposed to do another 5 minute exhibition and instead changed it on the fly to do whatever the hell he wanted. And then he never got brought back because of it. Now, this match, two things happened in this match, and they were both tremendous. Tanahashi and Shibata locked up. That's it. They locked up for, I don't
Over two
know.
minutes.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
over 2 minutes. It was incredible.
I thought that was going to be the match. And I was prepared to love it with a 5 minute lockup. But the lockup went over 2 minutes. It was fucking incredible. And by the way, drunk Mark Lawrence at that point would have called the 5 minutes, because, it's drunk Mark Lawrence. But then they stop locking up and go into a chop battle. And these two chopped the piss out of each other for the last 2.5, 3 minutes of the match. And it was fan fucking tastic. I could have
You will never see a better 5 minute match.
I could have watched them chop each other for an hour. I don't know if they could have watched each other chop each other for an hour, but I sure as hell could have.
I don't think Tanahashi would have had any skin left on his chest.
Okay, so you pay attention to this better than I probably did, because especially my mind was starting to wander because I was starting to get heavy-eyed, even during this match that I loved. Brian Alvarez on Twitter made a comment that this was a 5 minute grappling match and that featured a headbutt and chops. Did they ever call this a grappling match? Maybe that was the
No,
implication, but it was a five
no,
minute exhibition match.
it was built as a special exhibition match. There was nothing said of grappling rules or anything. It was just an exhibition match.
Okay, so I mean, because I know when he did the couple matches that they did before, he did what he did at the Tokyo Dome a few years ago, that those were considered grappling matches. But when they never said this was a grappling match, at least that I heard, I'm like, okay, I wanted to say something, but I'm like, just because I didn't hear it doesn't mean they didn't say it, that kind of thing. So I'm like, I'm gonna choose my battles and move on from life, especially because, oh my God, I fucking like, I was ready to fucking get off all social media during Wrestle Kingdom because when the junior title match, the ref stoppage happened. Someone posted on Blue Sky, "Oh, are titles allowed to change hands on a DQ in New Japan?" And I wrote, "Well, it wasn't a DQ; it was a ref stoppage." And this person got all fucking snippy with me, like, "Oh, you know what I meant," and blah blah blah. I'm like, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a ref stoppage. It's the same as a pinfall or submission. And they went off on it. I'm like, dude, I'm not giving you grief. I'm literally just trying to let you know what happened. And it's like, and then there was somebody else said something that I said something back to them and they flipped out again. I'm like, fuck social media today.
And you're right, but also titles do change hands on a disqualification or a count out in New Japan and in pretty
Yeah.
much any Japanese company.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that, but then I was reminded in the main event of this match. But by that point, I was not fucking going back to that person to talk to them on Blue Sky again.
Yeah, fuck them. They were dumb. You were right anyway.
Yeah.
It was a referee stop, which is yeah, and that is a title change.
So another title for title match: strong women's champion Mercedes Moné versus Rev Pro women's champion Mina Shirakawa with two belts. where the hell was Mina Shirakawa's other title belt? People are
Uh,
people are just coming out with title belts on these two shows that never got mentioned. And maybe this was like Athena's ROH Women's title. Maybe this was another, you know, the same belt twice or whatever. But
yeah, I couldn't figure that out. The extra belt says Queen of Southside, and that I can't see like that listed as a championship, so it may just be something that is linked with the British Women's Championship for some reason.
okay. I wrote, I want to know where Mercedes gets her wigs. We've already discussed my obsession with her skincare routine. I wrote the crowd was a lot more into this than the four-way earlier, and they were more into it than the women's match yesterday. Just really into this. Mina hit a DDT off the top rope and didn't even make a cover, which goes back to me complaining about people not trying to win. She used the figure four and a glamour driver for a near fall, so at least she remembered to try to win. After a series of near falls, Mercedes won with the Monet Maker. I thought this was a great match. And while I guess she's also technically a New Japan wrestler because she was the Strong Women's Champion, I did note that there were two double title matches on these shows, and the AEW wrestler won both of them.
Yeah, a New Japan wrestler really needs to win an AEW title.
Yeah.
Like, this was a great match. Mercedes had a Sailor Moon entrance attire. My wife loves Sailor Moon, so she was into that.
I, I
Uh,
thought I thought she was gonna wrestle in the dress she came out in,
yeah, yeah,
but
so did I. But she
um,
did. But it was very cool. She always has like incredible gear.
she does. She definitely, you know, puts money into her look, you know, and I appreciate it, Mercedes. Um, and
Wasn't her ex-husband like the gear maker? Is he still making her gear even though they got divorced?
maybe, I
Huh?
mean, they might still be friends, you know. It could be
Yeah.
like Dwayne and his ex-wife, you know. They could start a football league for all we know.
So yeah,
Um,
Mina did the ring post figure four and worked on Mercedes' knee. She likes to use the figure four anyway, so used it to great effect here. Uh, Mercedes kicked out of the glamorous driver Mina. I had convinced myself that there was a chance that Mina was going to win this match.
mhm.
At that point, she had gotten so close that I knew she wasn't going to, and then she didn't. But yeah, they had a great match.
I thought there was a chance she was gonna win. Um, so David Finlay versus Brody King. This was really where it started feeling like I was watching a 5 hour episode of Rampage because not that there's anything wrong with the match or not that there's anything wrong with Brody King or David Finlay, but like this match and you know the a couple of matches we have later on the show really felt like there's no reason for this match other than just to have it. And like especially like Brody King, when you think about all the people in AEW who did not get the call for this show. And again, this is not against Brody King. Brody King's great, but I don't know. It's like again, it's like when I go down the AEW lineup, persons A through G didn't get called, and person H did.
Here's the thing: it people don't take into account the political implications of booking these interpromotional matches. Okay, it's Brody King because one, he has like he's worked New Japan Strong in the United States, so he's like been in their system for a while. He's been to Japan before, like 5 years ago, but he's also like
Somebody who can lose,
so low enough, yeah, low enough on the AEW totem pole that he's a guy who can lose.
which really
And this
tells you
had to be
something.
because David Finley is one of their main stars, and he needed to get a win against an AEW talent on this show.
And admittedly, like Brody King is a very large man. He's a very intimidating looking man. You know, it looked good that David Finlay beat him. But it's like at the same time, like, okay, you know. And by the way, I got his move right this time. I did right. He won with the overkill. Um, but by the way, he towards the finish, he does a sunset flip into a power bomb off the ropes. But instead of going down in regular powerbomb fashion, he falls backwards and Brody goes face first into the turnbuckle, which I thought was a really cool little spot there.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, Finley was working hard out there, and I'm really glad. I thought they had a great match. I'm really glad that Brody made it to the Tokyo Dome. Like that's a guy who, by all means, should have been the top guy Jin in some Japanese company. He's perfect for it, other than the fact that you have to work out in a bodysuit. But
oh yeah,
he was made to work in Japan.
yeah. Finlay had a death wish, I thought here. He assaulted the guardrail and then patiently sat in a chair while Brody did a running crossbody, crunching Finlay against the railing. Like I thought this did more for Finlay to get him over than having that great match with Yota Tsuji on night one. Like, because I thought Yota Tsuji versus Finlay was a great match to get them both to over. I thought this was a great moment for David Finlay to get himself over.
Yeah, he did. He
Um,
I believe he silenced a lot of haters this weekend.
Haters gonna hate, 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 according to one of our great philosophers. Um, I liked, and I don't, I, it's possible that he just did this without thinking, but when Finlay won, he signaled for his belt and then had to be told he's not the champion anymore.
Oh,
And,
he
and,
forgot.
and part of me thinks like he legitimately forgot, and part of me thinks, okay, that's the setup to his next title match. You know, if it was AEW, I'd assume he's going for, I don't even know what other titles are in New Japan at this point. Isn't there still the New Japan United States title?
No, that
Or
was
that got merged into the global title. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say the Intercontinental title, but that's not a thing. The U.S. title, that's not a thing. He'll go for the Never title next. That could be interesting. Um, Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli. I guess I had forgotten this when we talked about Omega later earlier, but Chris Charlton lost his shit about Moxley during Shota's entrance here. And Claudio ran down to attack. I wrote Claudio from behind. Claudio did not attack himself from behind. But if anybody could attack themselves from behind, I bet Claudio could do that. But he
He's
attacked
very
Shota.
skilled.
Yeah, but he attacked Shota from behind to start the match. Now, again, this is me being, 99% American booking and looking for, you know, and keep in mind, like, remember a few months ago during All In, I flipped out when Darby Allin, who was allegedly getting a world title match, got squashed and butchered by Jack Perry in their casket match, and I flipped the fuck out about it. I was on the verge of something similar here because, like, the storyline, and please, 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 please correct me if I'm wrong, but the storyline here is Shota wants to wrestle Moxley, but Moxley's putting everybody in his way to beat first. And so it's like, okay, so the whole point is Shota's gonna beat everybody in the Death Riders and then get his match with Moxley. And I thought this match was too much Claudio. Like, I didn't want a squash match. I didn't want Shota taking 98% of the match, but it felt like Claudio was taking 90%, and that was mostly Shota just survived. And I get that Shota did that 44-minute match the night before, so they could have played that up a little bit more, but I thought he should have looked more dominant than he was. I thought
See,
this. Mhm.
I thought that he needed to look sympathetic. I thought that the selling was to make the people give a shit about him.
Maybe, and maybe you're right. I didn't think he got as much out of this as he could have.
Yeah, and I don't know what the right thing to do is with these shows on back-to-back days. Like I understand Shota's their guy. He had to lose yesterday, so he had to get a big win today. Um, I don't know, I don't know what I think the match should have been, you know?
Mhm.
But what they did was,
Mhm.
I don't know. I think this is going to be a long-term story because I don't think Shota is wrestling Moxley anytime soon. I definitely don't
Mhm.
think he's wrestling Moxley until he's not the AEW World Champion anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if that match doesn't happen until next year at the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I mean
So I,
they made it sound like anyway that that he wanted Moxley in the Tokyo Dome. So
yeah, yeah, that was what the original challenge was for. And it's interesting that the whole Death Rider storyline has New Japan implications because it's also led to a split between Shota and Moxley, who have been linked for like the past 5 years.
and because that was Moxley's first New Japan
Yeah,
match was against Shota, and he took him
the
under his
first was
wing as a young boy.
yeah, the first was against Juice, the second was against Shota. But yeah,
Was it? Oh yeah, oh yeah, it was because he didn't. Wasn't that when he won the U.S. title? Or
yeah, but
okay, yeah.
yeah, like you still got Shota showing the Moxley influence, the Blackpool Combat Club influence, doing the Danielson elbows. So it's I thought this was a good match. I don't know exactly like what you should have done with Shota right here because there's a long-term story being told about him not quite being there yet,
Hmm.
and he's gonna have to rebuild. He's gonna have to do something big, like Naito, went on excursion to Mexico and found a whole new character. He's gonna have to do some kind of big character change that gets over. And I don't know at what point you do that. I don't know exactly, where we're at in the story. But just as a match for what they did, I thought this was very good.
So what I liked at one point, Claudio did the giant swing. That of
Yeah.
course was a big deal in WWE, and of course when WWE crowds would count along, they would not count correctly. They would just count one, two, three, four without actually taking into account the number of swings.
Yeah.
Not only did the New Japan crowd count in English, which was tremendous, but they also counted correctly. And it was a 19 rep giant swing. And by the way, Shota won with a Death Rider. Um, at that point, we got the annual minute-long New Japan schedule video, and I was more disappointed that it was in English because I used to love trying to jot down all these names, especially when it'd be a new show name that I wasn't quite getting, and having to write down the names of 20 shows in a minute. I used to love doing that, but yeah, they just plugged all the US, well, not even the US shows because they also plugged the Forbidden Door show in August, but they plugged all of the international dates. So then this is where I went to sleep and watched the next match, International and Never Openweight Champion Konosuke Takeshi with Don Callis versus Tomohiro Ishii. Trey, take it from here.
Uh, I noted that Bryce Remsburg made it to the Tokyo Dome too. Good for him. Uh, they had the exact match that you wanted them to have. They beat the absolute shit out of each other. They hit all the big moves. They took stupid bumps. I don't know what more you could want. But at the 9:30 mark of this match was when it became January 5th my time. So before this, I had in fact been watching a show that happened the next day. Ishii hit a goddamn top rope Frankensteiner. That was pretty nuts. They did some really nasty headbutts, and Takeshita ended up winning with the Raging Fire. And like, could they have a better match if it was a main event on like a G1 card and they had 25 minutes? Yes, they could. Was this excellent? Also, yes.
I really love this match. I said to you, I went to sleep at the wrong time because,
Yeah.
like, good Lord, it stopped being Rampage at this point. These two just, beat the fuck out of each other. Well, I thought this was the equivalent of beating the fuck out of each other, but I was wrong because, beating the fuck out of each other is still to come. But yeah, I really like this match. I've always liked Ishii, but it's been ever since August when he started showing up on AEW TV that I really appreciated Ishii and just love the guy at this point. And yeah, we need more Ishii.
Absolutely. Love Ishii. He's really great.
So
Um,
so up
what was
next
I
the
gonna?
tag title
I
match.
I uh,
Is it good?
I uh, I believe it was stated during the post-match comments that Takeshita is going to be defending at least the Never title against Kushida next weekend in San Jose.
Okay, yeah, this was during the point where it's like I to try to get this done before I did the show with Cindy at 8 o'clock. I was fast forwarding through all entrances and cutting off as soon as the match ended. So I didn't see any post match stuff at all.
All right. Well, tag title match. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot I was steering.
Nope.
So we had a three-way match for the vacant IWGP Tag Team Championship. Uh, uh, Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi, the World Tag League winners. Jeff Cobb and Great Okan and Hinari were the champions until Hinari got injured during the World Tag League. And the third team, the Young Bucks, the former one-time IWGP Tag Team Champions and seven-time Junior Tag Team Champions. They had special music. They had new gear that I like a lot better. The Bucks were being just the most shithead heels that they could be, and
Hmm.
they're really great at it. This was a really interesting mix of guys interacting. The match was awesome to watch, just a wild, entertaining spot fest. Jeff Cobb German suplexed everybody, including at one point he Germaned both Young Bucks at the same time. Destino on Matt that the camera missed. They had the EVB trigger on Naito, but Great Okan made the save. And then in the end, they hit what is variously known. The announcers called it a Meltzer driver. The official results called it the Tony Khan driver. But it was that move that the Young Bucks hit on Great O'Khan, and Matthew got the pin, and the Young Bucks became two-time IWGP Tag Team Champions.
So I thought it was a great spot fest. When the match originally got announced, it was Great O'Connor and Henare, and then later Great O'Connor and a mystery partner versus the Young Bucks. I think everyone, maybe I'm wrong, but at least I just assumed the Young Bucks were going to win. And then when Naito and Hiromu got at it yesterday, I'm like, okay, that throws in a new wrinkle to it. Because Naito, like, hey, he's still a big star. And so I'm like, there, he could get the belts here. Um, and then there were two different spots at the end where Great Khan broke up Naito. I think he's the one that broke up the Destino, and then he broke up the VT trigger. I'm like, maybe this is Great Khan and Jeff Cobb winning, which would be a little off, but I'll be honest, and I guess this isn't what's going to happen because I saw the Bucks made some comments after the show about coming back to AEW. I legitimately thought, and I think this is a great idea because Young Bucks have been pretty much all over AEW television now since day one, and it's been 6 years. I'm like, okay, what would be a great idea, at least in my opinion? The Bucks win the belts, and they go, I don't know if full time is the right word, but they go as close to full time as you're going to get to New Japan and basically become New Japan guys again. And I would throw Jack Perry in with them too, take them off US television, make them New Japan guys, and then bring them back at Forbidden Door. Because now it's not just, the Young Bucks and Jack Perry, it's New Japan's Young Bucks and Jack Perry. And I think that would freshen them up a bit. And that's where actually I figured they were going with it. Maybe not quite up to Forbidden Door, but at least up to a bit. But I guess the Young Bucks made a comment after the show that they were coming back to AEW as the IWGP champions.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So uh, I guess we'll see what you think about this. Yota Tsuji versus Jack Perry was about as close to me fast forwarding as any match was coming because I don't buy Jack Perry in a near main event spot. And I get it was for the global title. I get they're trying to position Yota Tsuji in a certain spot. This match should have been 3 matches ago. I was
Yeah, and I think the only reason that it wasn't was because of the title. This was supposed to be like the number two title in the company, so they had to put it on third from the top. I mean, I thought it was good. It was not a great match, but it was good for, what they did. I really wanted Jack to come out in a scapegoat van, but I guess he couldn't get it to Japan.
uh,
Uh,
or or they couldn't find a Japanese replacement.
the crowd is like really getting behind Suji, so like they booed Perry really bad when he would do shit like when he hit Suji in the balls.
Hmm.
So at least there's that. At least Suji is pretty popular with the crowd. But yeah, like I said, not a great match, but I thought it was a good match.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just, I did not want this match this late in the card. And
I get it. Yeah.
this felt more like the first half of the show. And I get the global title again. You want to put it, near the top because it's an important title. But yeah, this is where like the David Finlay Brody King match, that level of, anticipation for a match. Then we get Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd. And I'll admit, I don't remember if I've ever actually seen a Gabe Kidd singles match. Because like in my mind, Gabe Kidd was not the person that came out saying they were Gabe Kidd. So I was like, okay, maybe I just don't know who the hell he actually is. And I'll tell you what, I am Gabe Kidd's #1 fan. I fucking love this guy. We'll get into everything goes on here, but this guy was so fucking good. He he fucking killed it, I thought. Um, and I know this match in theory was more about Omega having his first match back, in a year, and that's great. But like fucking Gabe Kidd, like hats off to this fucking guy because he took some great bumps. His shit looked good. You know, I want to put I don't know what title I want to put on him, but I want to put a fucking title on him now.
He is, in fact, the strong open weight champion.
I want to put more titles on him now.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, he's fucking great. Just phenomenal. Somebody who like he's got that vibe of he just has a vibe of realness about him, but a vibe that he really is a little bit fucking crazy. So it really works. The best description of Gabe Kidd that you will ever hear came from our friend Adam Summers from the Big Audio Nightmare on Twitter, when he said that Gabe Kidd is like if Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer was trained by Katsuyori Shibata.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that Gabe came out in a New Japan tracksuit rather than his fancy big match Dr. Death Steve Williams robe, but that made the reveal all the better for the New Japan logo on his trunks. By the way, Gabe has more tattoos every time you see him. Since World Tag League, he has gotten his right upper arm done.
I,
So
I
yeah,
I just know even if I don't watch anything else in New Japan this year, I need to watch more Gabe Kidd.
absolutely. The one that I was really hoping for last year when Moxley was champion, and I was still hope to get it at some point. I want Gabe Kidd to fight John Moxley.
That could be fucking interesting.
That
Um,
that
the,
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
these two, I don't know if they were aware that wrestling's not real, and I don't say that often. Like I said that when Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew had their WrestleMania three-way, that I don't think they knew wrestling isn't real. This wasn't that. This was completely different, but this was, I don't think they know that they're supposed to work with each other. Because Jesus Christ, they were trying to kick each other's fucking ass here, and they were succeeding. Omega at one point, and I was just watching because it came up in my Facebook memories because, of course, hey, January 4th, the anniversary of the first Okada Omega match, I had videotaped off my TV the spot of Okada backdropping Omega over the top rope through the table, which I marked out for. And here, Omega, they're outside the ring. Omega picks up Gabe Kidd in a power bomb and heaves him over the guardrail and through our New Japan skinny ass table.
Just fucking yeets him. Oh my
Yeah.
God. That was a crazy, crazy thing that they did. Kid got busted open at the forehead. The announcers were talking about how Gabe Kidd doesn't fight with his brain, and that's absolutely right because Gabe Kidd fights with his balls. Uh, so strong style people misunderstand what strong style is. They think strong style is just about hitting each other hard. Strong style, Inoki's vision of strong style was a battle of different fighting ideologies. Okay, this match was the essence of New Japan. They are fighting over the concept and the meaning of being a gaijin in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
hmm And
Uh,
this match was where Chris Charlton was losing his shit. And to be honest, like I was half paying attention until I heard him talking about calling Tony Khan a money mark. I'm like, what is he talking about here? And that's when I noticed him really giving Omega shit here. And
yeah.
it it was something, I was not expecting it. I mean, it's not to say, that he doesn't get riled up, but like this was getting riled up about business.
He gets very passionate. He's very passionate about New Japan.
Yeah. So
So
not that
Kid, I
Mhm.
Kid has to be like a shoe in for the Bruiser Brody Award this year because he really is like the most incredible brawler in the business, and
If
he
I
did it.
if I
So,
hadn't already turned in my ballot, I would have changed my pick to Gabe Kidd.
so Kid suplexed Kenny through one of those stiff Japanese tables, then did the Shibata sit up and arms crossed, and then he cracked Omega over the head with a piece of the table. Omega got busted open really bad from that. Kid bit the wound. They took bumps on a bunch of chairs, which I bet sucked. Well, at no point is a DQ even considered by anyone as a
Mm-mm.
possibility.
But
Horrible chair shots to the head, but at least they're
yep.
flimsier than proper American steel chairs.
I will say that I don't say it came out of nowhere, but in many ways I thought the finish came out of nowhere, where it just happened. Kenny Omega picked him up and gave him the one-winged angel for the win.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. That's the way that they build these finishes sometimes.
hmm
The crowd just got more and more for Gabe as the match went on.
hmm
So Omega hit an avalanche dragon suplex, hit a J driller. Kid kicked out. Omega hit the V trigger, went for the one winged angel, but his core gave out. He didn't have the core strength. He's coming back from about a diverticulitis.
hmm
And then Kid got him in the Antonio Inoki octopus hold because we're fighting for the soul of New Japan. And then Kid hit a fucking Gonzo bomb. And I don't mean like the way Brody King does it. I mean he hit the fucking Kawada driver. Followed up with a regular pile driver. Omega incredibly got a boot on the ropes. And then Kenny did a sequence. Kid did one last fighting spirit comeback. Kenny reaching into his arsenal and reaching out to his golden lover Kota Ibushi, delivered the Kamagoye and then the one winged angel and the pin, 31 minutes and 55 seconds. This match was so goddamn incredible that Hiroshi Tanahashi was sobbing at the announce table.
I did not see that. I heard about it, did not see it, but it was fucking tremendous. And if you know, it's one of those matches where it's like if you're gonna pay 9.99 to watch a match on these two shows, this would be the match to do it.
This is, as
Um,
of this moment, the match of the year here on January 5th.
yes. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ricochet. It um it was very, very, very good. But again, it had this is gonna be a horrible comparison now because of the injury, but it was very much El Desperado versus Doki in the sense that it went after the wrong match because it not that it had trouble following it, but like at that point it's like okay, this is gonna have some difficulties going next here. And they had a really good match. Um, I I don't know if I was expecting more, but like it was very fast paced. It was a lot faster paced than the title match on the fourth. Then again, they only went like 17, 18 minutes. Ricochet attacked at the bell, and it was just on. And at the end, remember when I told you in the last match that Sabre tried to make Shota Umino's arms touch behind his back? He did it to Ricochet, and that was the finish because Ricochet had to verbally submit. Did he do that to
Yeah,
Danielson one time? I seem to remember him doing it to Danielson.
probably. Yeah. Uh, so Ricochet's started hot with a dive, a tope suicida, Sasuke special, 450 splash. Uh, they were on the outside a lot early, and then Ricochet did a backflip off the barricade, and Zack caught him in a cravat and carried him back to the ring. That was fucking fantastic. I thought it was kind of funny that Ricochet was in an IWGP World Heavyweight Title match when his most recent singles match was a loss to, of all people, Kazuchika Okada.
Hmm.
Yeah, they did a spot, or I think Ricochet did like a vertical suplex on the apron and then rolled it through on the floor. That was pretty. Never seen that particular sequence done. They slapped each other really hard. This was the point that I was getting really sleepy. Vertigo, Ricochet hit it. Uh, Either hit it for a near fall or went for it and got countered. But I wrote here's what I wrote: Vertigo, Vertino. So whatever. At 3 o'clock in the morning, that I thought the Vertigo didn't work. Uh, Ricochet went for the 630 senton, and Zack moved, and Ricochet fucking died. Zack hit the Zack driver. Uh, wasn't able to get the pin. Ricochet got booed for using a closed fist, which I fucking love. But then in the end, Sabre submitted Ricochet via the Clarky Cat, and then they had the big TMDK celebration with the ones who were there. And I feel so bad for Mikey and Shane, who were the double tag team champs last year, and then they don't even get brought to the Tokyo Dome.
I 'Cause when the match ended, there was still 10 minutes left on the thing, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get a post-match challenge or whatever, like you do at the end of a lot of New Japan shows. And I kind of like, I didn't watch, but I kind of slowly fast forwarding, waiting for the challenge. That never happened. Instead, the show just came to an end, and we were left to think that, hey, something will happen at New Year's Dash later today.
Yeah, so Zach is wrestling Hechicero at Battle in the Valley next week. They could possibly make that a title match. Wouldn't be surprised. Also, wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Then he's got Hiroki Goto, which I assume may be the match for February, whatever it is, in the new beginning in Osaka. I
Hmm.
would guess. I have no idea what New Year Dash is going to be, but unless they do something
Well,
really random with the ridiculous amount of talent that they have available to them right now, I would expect some kind of TMDK versus Chaos multi-man tag. You know what? I bet it's gonna be Ishii, Rocky, and Yo against no Goto, Rocky, and Yo against Zack, Robbie Eagles, and Gosei Fujita, because they're
I,
doing
mhm.
Yo and Rocky are challenging Robbie and Fujita for the junior tag titles next month.
I know this isn't New Japan's way of doing things, but like we never know what the New Year's Dash card is until they announce it at the beginning of the show. I would
They don't
love
even do
it.
that anymore. Now it's just
Oh,
when the music plays.
see, that's what I was gonna say. I would love if they just like you don't know what the match is until it happens.
Yeah, and that's really cool. There's the last couple of years, there's been one really like kind of a big surprise, like 2 years ago when it was they did Okada and Omega teaming as the Omega Powers. Last year they had an eight-man tag with TMDK against Okada, Ishii, Bryan Danielson, and John Moxley. But they have a really ridiculous roster of talent available to them who was there for the show.
Yep.
They, if they want to, could do like what I said was that Gato should just let El Desperado book this because Desperado kind of like if anybody watched the Despy Mania show back in June, Despy books quote unquote for the sickos. I would very much like to see a sickos edition of New Year Dash here in about
I think it starts at 4:30
30
my
or
time.
yeah, I think yeah, 3:30 my time. They just announced that they're going to do a pre-show match at 3. So yeah, as soon as we get off here, I'm going to go take a nap for about 3 or 4 hours and try to get up and do that because that's always a very fun time.
I said I got to do the shoot job, so after I post this, I'm going to bed. But
Understandable.
all right, so we got like 3 minutes left before we hit the 2 hour mark. So somehow we reviewed 11 hours of wrestling in 2 hours, which shows that hey, we're able to do that kind of thing. But
Also good, by the way.
yes, I will say like this whole thing a lot more good than bad. Like I know I had my complaints. Obviously, not every show's going to be perfect, but a lot more good than bad. I was happy to spend my 11 hours watching these two shows. But before we wrap things up, do you have anything you want to say to the fine listener out there?
No, I had a good time. I like these shows. Everybody knows I'm a New Japan guy. That's my like you have your Buffalo Bills or whatever. They're your sports team. New
Mm-hmm.
Japan is my team, so I support them no matter what. I
Gotta
support
support
them
the
when at their
team.
best, and then I support them to do better when they need to.
And
But as
you,
a fan, I was very happy and really enjoyed these shows and go check them out and go listen to the Oh My Godcast.
all right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the show. We're back to our regular schedule starting Tuesday. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.